Talia cried over a size tag the first time she was in the changing room. It's not the glass, the lights, or even the price tag. That tiny number that was stitched and felt like it was screaming at her. I grabbed her hand and told her that the number would never be able to describe who she was. I meant it back then and every time after that. I told myself that day that I would never let her feel small. Not in life, not in size, and not with me. I kept that promise for 5 years. Not once. I was all in. I spent Saturday nights cutting up veggies and putting quinoa into color-coded containers because she wanted to try meal prepping. She was having a terrible time at the gym on her first day. She could barely jog for 2 minutes without gasping for air. I wasn't amused. I didn't make fun of you. Every time her knees started to buckle, I ran slowly next to her and told her, "You got this." I hid the scale when she said she didn't want to do it because the number might make her sad. It made her day when she lost her first 10 pounds. When she dropped 30 pounds, I put a picture of her in her first gold dress and framed it. I wasn't just there to help. I cared about it. She would call me her partner, her rock, and her reason. That word partner used to make me smile because I didn't feel like I was giving up anything. It made me feel like I was making something important with someone. I felt her fears as if they were my own. I read about insulin resistance and macro splits and even signed up for exercise newsletters so I could talk about what she was learning in a smart way. I was always willing to learn, change, and say yes. Though I began to notice that she wasn't looking back at me anymore at some point. I still clapped and cheered as I followed her, but she was getting farther away. The day she walked by the mirror and flexed her arms, I saw it. Not a shy or thankful smile, she smiled. It was new, proud, and fierce, and for a second I wasn't in the mirror. I told myself it was just a part of growing up, and that maybe I was being too emotional. But there were more signs. She didn't want me in her selfies after the change anymore. She would say, "It's just for my progress album." Fans on Instagram, on the other hand, knew everything about her trip except for the guy who took the picture with his phone. I saw that the word "we" was gone when she started to tag inspiring quotes. It was all me. It hurt in a way I couldn't put into words. When you help someone for a long time, you don't expect to be forgotten. I kept saying yes, though. Could you help me make meals instead of going to game night? Yes. Can we get out of the trip? I am trying to stick to a schedule. Yes. Allow me to record some exercise videos in the guest room, please. Yes. Every time I said yes, I thought it was a step toward a marriage we were building together. But the more beautiful she looked in the mirror, the less close we became. She no longer held my hand in public. She began coming home later. She stopped writing comments on my social media stories and started giving me a thumbs up instead. Her laugh stopped, especially when I made jokes. The ones that used to make her laugh. The ones she begged me to tell her again. Even the quiet around us seemed louder. The closeness also went away. Not just physical but also mental. I told her not to ask me how my day was. If I told her, she'd nod her head and keep going through her phone, double-tapping some Czech or green smoothie people. I started bringing her protein bars and making sure her fridge was always full. Someone who works with you on a team, but not as a lover or partner. I kept telling myself it would be okay, that her head was just in the game and I had to keep my cool. I told myself, this is just a season. Time goes by though. Kept getting colder. I saw her sitting on the porch by herself one night, her phone shining in her face. Without a doubt, she looked beautiful. It was clear that she had worked hard because her eyes were far away. When I asked her, "Are you okay?" she smiled and said, "I'm just thinking." Thoughts. She was thinking all the time, but she never said anything. In bed that night next to a woman who used to melt into my arms, I finally told myself the truth. Being in love shouldn't feel like running on a machine at full speed. I was the only one who was still trying to keep up. I said yes for 5 years. For 5 years, Alan has always shown up no matter what. Yes. I wasn't sure if all those yes had cost me myself, which was the one thing I never thought I'd lose. What do you do when your yes turns into her way out? You wait, watch, and hurt, but you don't break. Not yet. Kale chips were the first thing. I know that sounds crazy, but one night when I got home, garlic and olive oil smelled great. It looked like Talia was on her own food show as she threw something green and crunchy into a bowl in the kitchen. "Try one," she said with a grin that made you think she knew everything about the universe. I tried to hide my frown as I bit into a salty, earthy, barely food. Not bad, I lied. She laughed and kissed me on the cheek. She didn't kiss me again for a while after that. Things changed in more ways than one over the next few weeks. Her tone, speed, and quiet did it. She started giving us green drinks and avocado toast for dinner instead. Even though I was there for her, every meal felt like a show for someone else. She'd post pictures of her plates from 3 different angles with hashtags like #NewMe, #GlowUpJourney, and the one that made my stomach clench, #ShareMemberitis. I was happy at first. I prayed for her to feel more confident, and she was. Then I heard that her subtitles were no longer sounding like her. They sounded planned, cold, and controlled, and they never talked about me. I went from being her ride or die to being a shadow on the edges of her life, and a fuzzy figure in the background. Then new clothes came out. They were neater, tighter, and more daring. I told her she looked beautiful the first time she wore a dress with no back to dinner. She didn't say anything. She just took a picture by the window with her lips pursed to make her pout, then posted it on her story. No name or tag, just a map of the restaurant and the song lyrics. She doesn't chase, she pulls people in. That night, she didn't look at me much. In between classes, she looked at her phone and laughed at something someone else had written instead of what I said. Since it was just a nice thing to do, she let her hand stay limp in mine when I reached out to touch it. I didn't give up. I told them a joke she used to love. She smiled very little. She watched our favorite shows without me now that we used to watch them all at once. Curled up away from me on the couch with earbuds in. The warmth we used to feel for each other had turned into something cold and calculated. And I could feel her moving away every day. When I walked into the living room one night, she was video chatting with someone. It looked like I scared her because she jumped and quickly locked her screen. I knew she wasn't looking at recipes. Who was that? I asked it informally. She wasn't sure. This is Arlo. This is Arlo from the weight loss group. He works as a chef. Even though I said yes, my chest felt tight. You talk a lot? When she said, sometimes, she didn't look at me. I couldn't sleep that night. While I lay there looking at the ceiling, I could just barely make out her typing next to me. When I moved, she moved her phone closer to her chest and was guarded and quiet. All I could think was, this is what it's like to be replaced. The next morning, I searched for the name Arlo and found a tall guy with a beard and perfect teeth. On his page, lots of women commented with fire emojis on videos of him without a shirt on. His direct messages probably had a lot of hearts and compliments. Now he had my wife's attention, make her laugh, and maybe even know her secrets. I try not to go backwards. Even though I kept telling myself that faith was important, it feels like an insult when your gut is screaming otherwise. Then it took place. The house was being cleaned. Tradition every Saturday. I was about to leave the guest room when I saw her sitting on the bed and scrolling again. Talia, are we okay? I asked her as I sat down next to her. She looked at me like I had asked something rude. The screen stopped moving for a moment. Why wouldn't we be? You no longer talk to me. You don't laugh. Sometimes you don't even say good night. She let out a sigh, got up, and began folding her clothes. What is all I can think about? Malik, look at me. I've always agreed with that. But lately it seems like you're too big for us. She stopped moving. Then she said it straight and sharp like knives cutting through cloth. I might have. I held my breath and sat still. What does that mean? It means I'm changing and growing. What about you? You're not changing. She finally turned around, her eyes cloudy and her voice low. You're nice. You're always nice, but you're also soft, reliable, here all the time and open. That's what I thought love meant. She opened her eyes. Could be true. However, love might not be enough any longer. I didn't say anything. Not able to. And then she fell asleep. I sat in the living room that night with my laptop open and a blanket over my shoulders. What did I look for? I have no idea. Maybe some proof that I hadn't been dreaming and that the years hadn't been a lie. Every time I looked at our old pictures, I saw happiness, shared desserts, and her head on my shoulder. Then I messed up and opened her message tab. I did something I shouldn't have. He was right there. Arlo. Messages of love and inside jokes. Do you get it? She sent him a letter. There is no food plan in sight. What about me? The only thing I did for her was pay for her gym membership and remember when she ate. She felt like she had to carry the guy who used to be her partner. I didn't cry that night, but I did learn what quiet sounds like. It sounds like you gave someone everything and then picked someone who didn't do anything to deserve it. They called that growth. When I got home from work, I was expecting extra food and the normal quiet. On the kitchen table, there was a manila package instead. There was no dinner, post-it note, or explanation. There were only files. It hurt more than any punch I'd ever taken when the word divorce was stamped across the top in big Helvetica. I stood there with my jacket half off and my keys still hanging from my fingers, as if being cold at that moment could turn back time and undo the whole day. As I slowly opened it, the silence made my heart beat loud. Forms are already half filled out inside. She signed her name in all the right places like she had done it many times before. There I was. She might come out of the bedroom. She might say it was an accident to start a talk or scare him. She didn't, though. As she took off her makeup, the door to the bathroom was cracked open. The hands that used to shake when she was worried late at night now wiped off eyeliner like she hadn't just set off a bomb on our kitchen table. I finally said, "Talia." She didn't move. "Yes. What is this?" She already came out in her robe, leaving her face bare and hard to read. I thought that was pretty clear. "You couldn't first talk to me." "I didn't want to fight," she said, putting her arms around herself like she was being thrown down. "I also didn't think you'd listen." "I always listen," I said in a low voice that wasn't necessary. She said, "You listen too much. You're always here, always available, always reliable. And honestly, that's part of the problem." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I didn't know how else to respond to being told I was too consistent. That's the problem. So I showed up and stayed. She walked across the room barefoot and pulled the papers closer to me as if I were going to grab them and run. I need time to figure out who I really am. I've spent years supporting someone else's version of me. I blinked. "You mean my version?" She didn't answer. I grabbed the curtain edge at the window to steady myself as I spoke. My voice cracked, but I forced the words out anyway. Had I done something wrong? Talia didn't even think twice. "No, you were good. Too good. Maybe too soft. Too safe. I need something more now." She said it like I was a starter husband. It felt like I was just a warm-up act before the main act. After all the years I spent working out with her, running late at night to get a protein shake, and counseling her when she hit a wall or went off the rails, I was now safe, comfortable, and dull. I sat down at the table and put my elbows on the envelope like it was just another bill. I thought about the pictures of our wedding and how she cried at the altar and made promises in the dark. And now she was done with less ceremony than canceling a gym membership. I looked up and said, "So that's it." She shrugged. "I thought you might be relieved." I really was relieved. I couldn't find the strength to argue. I signed not because I agreed or accepted, but because I realized I had already lost the battle to get someone to love me. I carefully signed each page slowly, not as a goodbye, but as a death notice for the person I had been. They got rid of the man who skipped groom's trips because she was afraid of being alone for too long, and gave up promotions to drive her to checkups. That man didn't die. He was thrown away. I signed the last page and pushed the envelope toward her. "I hope you find what you're looking for." I saw doubt or maybe regret in her eyes for a split second, but she quickly blinked it away. "I already am," she said. That night she left. She said she was going to see her sisters, packed 2 bags, took her vitamins and ring light, and left a trail of perfume and promises she didn't plan to keep. I stood alone in the kitchen with the lights off and the fridge humming softly. I didn't cry or throw anything. I just opened the freezer, took out one of those bland-ass meal prep containers she used to swear by, and threw it away. That was the first step. The next morning, I drove to a different gym than the one where I used to wait while she posed in front of the mirror. There were no ring lights, no social media, just iron, pain, and discipline. I started lifting again, but not for her or to keep up with her. Every drop of sweat that rolled off my back felt like a piece of her washing off. Over the next few weeks, I cleaned out our closet, put away her clothes, sold the equipment she left behind, and deleted the fitness apps we used to sync. Even the Instagram posts I tagged her in were taken down. It wasn't because I was being mean, I just wanted to clear my mind of the man I used to be. I needed to build a new one. Talia wanted freedom and she got it. But I got something else in return, purpose. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a supporting character in my own life. People say that grief shows you who you are and divorce shows you who you were. What it showed me in the weeks after Talia left was hard to take. I wasn't just a man getting over a broken heart. I was a man who had made all of his decisions based on what other people wanted. Her plans, hopes, and dreams became my guide and list. I wasn't just her husband. I was her plan, her cheerleader, her chauffeur, and her safety net. And when she no longer needed those things, I realized I'd put my own plans on hold. Talia never knew what I saw because I never let her see it. The part of me I locked up in the attic while I focused on being supportive. I had real dreams, a fully written proposal for a wellness tech startup, a UX framework that had already been prototyped, and contacts in Houston who were waiting impatiently for me to say yes. But at the time, Talia was my top priority, and anything that took time away from her journey was put off. I did it anyway because I thought marriage meant making sacrifices. I had time and nothing left to lose. I called Jackson, my old business partner, and said 5 words I hadn't let myself say in years. I'm ready to build now. There was silence on the other end. Then a whoop loud enough to make me laugh for the first time in weeks. You better not be playing, Malik, he told me. I kept your seat warm. 2 weeks later, I was in Houston. I didn't even look back at the apartment I'd shared with Talia. I just left the keys with the landlord, threw away the last box of protein powder, and drove west with the windows down and my playlist blasting like the soundtrack to a gospel service. In my chest, I felt a quiet resolve that said, "It's your turn now." Houston greeted me like I had never been away, and Jackson set me up in a co-working loft. My fingers flew across the keyboard like they were dying to move again. Code, calls, pitches, and drafts. I wasn't rusty, I was born again. PulseFrame was the name of our project. It was all about personalized wellness journeys that included nutrition, movement, and mental health, all based on AI and human coaching. I couldn't help but notice the irony. The app was everything I had built behind the scenes for Talia, but now it had my name on it. And I wasn't done yet. I wasn't just tech savvy. I changed everything. I went to a new gym with no filters or influencers, just steel and grit. I bought new clothes not to validate myself, but because I finally wanted to be proud of how I looked. I went to a new barbershop and met Carter, an older trainer who didn't care about followers or looks. You want to lose weight? He asked me if I wanted to get weak. I said no, I wanted to get strong. He gave me a quick nod and said, "Then we're going to build from the core." That made me think. I got up before the sun came up every morning to do deadlifts, runs, meditate, and drink protein smoothies that tasted like chalk. The pain was a good thing. It helped me remember I was alive. After my hands healed from the pain, I pushed again. And the mirror stopped looking like someone who was ready to be picked. It looked like someone had finally made up their mind. I even began writing in a diary, but not the kind with a nice scent. The raw kind with pages of truth, anger, pain, and the ugly parts, as well as the power I had hidden for too long. I wrote one line at the top every day. There is no other plan besides you. And it made me believe it more as I wrote. I started going to meetups, tech mixers, wellness panels, and business incubators in my area. Leona, a woman from a venture capital company, came up to me at a pitch event one night. "It was nice to see your demo," she said. "You made this from nothing." I answered for every line of code. She hit her tablet. "Let's talk." After 2 weeks, PulseFrame got its first investor, who gave the company a 6-figure pledge. I felt something shift in my bones as I looked at the contract in my email. Talia had called me once when I was free. She might have been right too, since I had always been there for everyone but myself. Now I wasn't just open, I chose to be. I got food that night, lit a candle, not for romance but for mood, put on an old John Coltrane record, and sat on my couch barefoot with plans, pitch decks, dumbbells, and a vision board I hadn't shown anyone. I felt full for the first time in years in that silence. Not because someone loved me, but because I stopped needing praise all the time. I didn't mean to hurt Talia. I didn't look at her page for long. I didn't care what she was doing with Arlo or where she was modeling now. That was her trip. She was free to do what she pleased. And I had a reason for being here. It turned out to be better than any payback plot. Better than being validated. I wasn't trying to be the man she felt bad about losing. I was turning into the man I felt bad putting off. Have you ever seen someone lie so much that they start to believe it? That's how it felt to see Talia carry Arlo around town like he was the healthiest person ever. The Instagram post began with soft pictures of him reaching for her waist while she was making food. They hiked together in videos that were perfectly filtered and played music that made you think they were living in a romance movie. It wasn't painful. Not at first. I was too busy rebuilding myself to care about the sparkle on the outside. The subtitles came next. Spend time with people who help you remember who you are. Energy tells the truth. Real knows what real is. But energy can be false. It can also be smooth talks and slides into your direct messages, DMs, that look like a diet plan. My friend saw what I didn't say or do, but I did. My old college friend Kesha, who is now a qualified dietitian, sent me a message one afternoon that made my stomach turn. You do know that Arlo has been sued twice, right? I looked at the screen and blinked. Not at all. You need to. One person for taking advantage of their emotions, and another for fraud with money. Through both of his coaching sets. It's a mess. Keep an eye on Malik. She's really into it. I looked at her message for a long time before I replied. She picked him. Kesha answered right away. You can still see the storm coming. That's what I did. I stood still and watched as the picture broke up around the edges. People stopped commenting on Talia's shots of green juices and alignment walks on the beach. Some of her longtime fans started to ask her subtle questions. You said your husband helped you make your meal plan, right? Who is that guy from your before and after post? Then Arlo said, Girl, really, people could smell something off. And as soon as they smell it, the wolves show up quickly. It had been a month when I got another word from Ka. She's about to find out. Someone who used to work for Arlo is going public. I have audio texts, receipts, and screenshots. Things are going to get loud. I did not have a party. I didn't smile. But I'm not going to lie and say I didn't feel a strange sense of fairness. This man, this well-dressed, dishonest imposter of a healer, wasn't a surprise to me. Before she let him in, I knew what kind of person he was. The nice expert, the guru who wasn't qualified and gave women affirmations like candy, as they were robbed blind under the growth packing. And Talia was his best type of target because she was new to being confident and wanted to be approved of. She was a living success story who was dying for someone to tell her she wasn't done yet. Came apart quickly when it did. She took a big hit when her best friend Shayla shared a story that was meant to be private. That picture showed Arlo without a shirt on, and with a glass of wine on a patio that wasn't Talia's. Shayla is the voice behind the camera. There was also the caption. Sometimes the coach plays more than one game. In less than 24 hours, the exercise and wellness sections of Instagram were full of screenshots. One of Arlo's ex-clients made a video in which she sobs and talks about how he love-bombed her, while asking $1,200 a month for transformation packages. Another woman came forward with proof that she had been asked by Venmo to give her an accountability hug. It was disgusting and heartbreaking, and it was the kind of mess that a teal filter and a positive quote can't fix. The page for Talia was blank for 2 days. Then the post saying sorry came out. Not clear, too much editing, and a lot of the word healing. But people in the comments didn't like it. You left your husband to do this. Where is the responsibility? It is strange that Malik vanished as soon as this guy showed up. That's when I got it. People thought about it. They knew when I stopped being in her story. They had seen me, the steady person in her old pictures. The person who made things happen without ever wanting praise. They could see me even though she had erased me. Anyway, they asked me the same thing every night after she left, which wasn't new. Was it him who made the mistake or the base? She tried to get better. Shared some videos of me working out alone. We talked about being strong. Put up a story about how she wrote in her book by candlelight. The sparkle was gone though. The story fell apart. Before, the woman thought of herself as a self-made queen. Now she looked like what she had become. A story to teach you not to burn the hand that made your ladder. As I sipped my protein shake on my patio, I watched the sun go down behind the skyscrapers of Houston. The screen of my laptop, which shows PulseFrame's beta information, is lit up and sitting on my lap. It had been less than a month and already over 15,000 people had downloaded it. Next week, a big backer was going to fly in from Chicago, and I didn't feel spite or anger in my heart. I just felt clear. Talia had picked a trick. She saw our marriage as a stepping stone and thought the next ledge would be higher. But the truth was that she had fallen from a footing and hit the wall. She thought she was stronger because I made quiet sacrifices, was there for her every day, and always said yes. It was no longer an increase for her. Her dream had come apart, But I was still getting stronger day by day. Talia did more than just get people to follow her. She made a name for herself. People called her Coach T, the woman who turned pain into power, who dropped 50 pounds and got a ring light and a reason to live. I used to think the story was holy because she told it so well. Arlo didn't just leave with her money and pride, though, when he vanished. He took the framework that held up her whole business. She tried to get better. Thanks to the video and whispers that came through my DMs, I saw it from afar. She's putting a spin on it. Ka sent a message one night with a movie attachment. I pressed. Talia was sitting on a yoga mat in front of a salt lamp. Her voice was shaking in that perfectly controlled way that an advocate does. Her eyes were glassy. She said that this is a time to get better. I'm sorry, but I'm not broken. But the internet wasn't willing to forgive. People didn't want how strong she was. They wanted her to answer for what she did. Especially after screenshots showed that she blocked several followers who asked about Arlo's cases. It was more than just the incident. It was the stillness, the care, and the way she kept standing in her athleisure clothes as if nothing had happened. Her ebook sales dropped like a rock. There was a drop in one of her affiliate companies. Someone else asked her to stop working with other people on content until further notice. Her comment section used to be full of heart emojis and yes, queen statements, but now it's empty. Transformation was at the heart of your platform, but you couldn't spot lies. Where is your husband now? Yes, I see. You gave him away. Ladies who are truly royal don't need fakes or screens. They were not mean. They were done believing in something that was so carefully made up that it couldn't stand up to a single truth. That was the end of the pictures. No more selfies at the gym. There will be no more green drink guides. No more well-formed themes. Her page was empty for weeks. Ghost Town is a museum about a woman who was loved, and then left by both her boyfriend and her fan base. People began to ask the real questions in that empty space. How come Malik was no longer in her story? I remember how she'd thank him after each big step. Then one day there was nothing. It was only him who cheered for her when no one else did. Some even found me. My email account was full of quiet thanks from people I didn't know. I can now see you, bro. In that story you were the real one. She did something wrong. You didn't. I didn't answer most of them. I didn't need to. That group of people on the internet that had once sparked her fire didn't mean anything to me, but it did something. People who had been fooled by the surface were finally able to see the scaffolding behind the glow up. I wasn't too big for her. She had sent me out. Now the truth was coming out. I remember when it happened. I was going downtown to leave a meeting about strategy. When my phone broke, pulse frame charts were still new on my screen. Number not known. It went to voicemail. I listened afterward. Hey Malik, it's me. I understand that you most likely don't want to hear from me. I just heard her voice break. Things are breaking down. Some people believe I'm dishonest. And maybe I am. I'm not sure. I had no idea Arlo would do that, though. My only wish was for something to feel like mine. She stopped and took a deep breath. I used to think that you picked on me and made me feel small, but now I see that you really made me feel safe. I gave that away to get power. Press. No apologies, just falling apart. That night I looked out the window of my car for a long time. Not because I missed her, but because I got her better now than I did when we were married. Talia hadn't built her business on trust. She built it to get away. Get away from your old body, your old fears, and your old doubts. I was a part of that old world by chance. She tried to get rid of me too when she lost weight, as if I were a problem instead of an answer. The thing about change, though, is this. It doesn't last if it's not based on truth. Now the truth was coming out of the cracks in her carefully put together story. She lost more than one man. She misplaced her mirror. The person who saw her before she had likes, brand deals, waist trainers, morning routines, and aligned queen hashtags. The internet might have moved on, but I knew she wouldn't because she was looking at the broken pieces of her kingdom, and no one was there to help her fix it up. I thought I'd feel like I was right. I felt steady instead because while her company fell apart, I was building something real. I had planned to give some talks. My team was getting bigger. We were trying out new features that would help people keep track of both physical and emotional health. I went on another relaxed, quiet date. No flash, just talking, connecting, and being honest. There is no spotlight or plot, just me. Malik's heart. Not the man who was behind the woman or the one who was left, but the one who decided not to chase. That was the main change. It was after church on a Sunday. Pleasant breeze, game on low, air-fried lemon pepper wings, and peace in every room of my flat. I had just ended a call with a new sponsor who wanted to show off Pulse's frame at a health tech expo that was coming up. It was peaceful in my life. Then someone knocked. I didn't expect anyone to come over. My friends and family call or text before they come over, and they don't knock on the door like that. There are 3 quick taps, and there is just enough time between each one to make it sound like regret. She was there when I opened the door. Talia. Not a screen. No clothes that fit. That hoodie was too big on her. The hair that was pulled into a puff had given up by the middle of the day. It looked like she hadn't slept in a week because I was so big. She slung a worn-out bag over her shoulder and held the strap with one hand.